Labor are going to fight Gladys Berejiklian's decision to cut the wages of over 400,000 public servants, including nurses, teachers, police and firefighters. I played you the audio previously from the Premier when she made this announcement yesterday. She says it's all about short-term pain for long-term gain. I guess it's all right, maybe for the Premier of New South Wales, who quite smugly, in my opinion, just waved off and arrogantly pushed aside any suggestions that perhaps she should have frozen the pay of those top bureaucrats. I mean, for God's sake, somebody got an $86,000 pay rise this year. I think it was the head of the health department or something. Nothing to see here. That's my problem with it. Anyway, Jody McKay said today Gladys Berejiklian thanked the heroes who risked their lives and served New South Wales during the COVID-19 crises with a pay cut. And Labor's calling it a kick in the guts for people like teachers, nurses, health workers, bus and train drivers, cleaners, security guards and so many more who've had our back. Well, let's talk more about it. Adam Searle is the New South Wales Shadow Minister for IR and Industrial Relations. He's on the program. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Marcus. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Look, I forecast this. I could see it coming weeks ago, as I know you could have as well. I've been trying desperately to get the Premier of New South Wales on the program. She won't come on, and is it any wonder? Because there are a lot of questions, I think, that still need to be asked over a number of issues during COVID-19, and this is just another one of them.
Exactly. Look, this plan of the Premier's is a gross act of economic vandalism. At a time when we need to stimulate the economy, this measure will actually contract economic activity. The spending of public sector workers who live in every suburb, town and village across New South Wales contributes to every local economy and supports jobs, including in the private sector, in each of those places. Now, if the Premier cuts that spending power, that will be less goods and services that people can buy in local communities, and those jobs will disappear. The job losses could be in the hundreds of thousands as a result of the Premier's plan. And it's just a ridiculous plan. Responsible economists say we need to stimulate the economy at all levels, including getting more cash into the economy and moving around. And public sector wages are an important part of this. The state government of New South Wales is not just the biggest employer in New South Wales, it's the single biggest employer in Australia. The economic impact of that is massive. And if you're going to not keep wages in line with inflation, you're cutting wages, and that will lead to reduced economic activity and job losses right across the economy.
What about the argument that I'm hearing from some, Adam, that effectively inflation's not rising as much as it has been? And, I mean, some people have called this effectively a pay cut. Others disagree, saying, well, you know, inflation is effectively down, if you like, so it's not really. What do you say to that?
Well, that's just empirically not true. Inflation was running at 2.2% to the end of the March quarter. We don't know what the final figure for the year is, but it's going to be well above 1.5%. So there will still be inflation. There will still be an erosion of people's buying power in terms of their incomes. And the reality is we need to stimulate the economy. We need to get it moving, and cutting the pay of 10% of the New South Wales workforce is an act of economic vandalism. This is just not the sensible move if you have the community's interest at heart.
All right, well, let's look at some of the infrastructure budgets spends, if you like. I mean, obviously there are blowouts, including $6.8 billion on WestConnex, $3 billion on Sydney Metro, $2.2 billion on health infrastructure, $1.3 billion on the Sydney Light Rail, and this ridiculous $100 million for the Sydney Roosters fans at the Sydney Football Stadium. Sorry, I can't help myself, but I mean, try and tell a police officer or a nurse in Dubbo, out back of New South Wales, how important the rebuilding of Sydney Football Stadium is when they can't get a pay rise. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, yeah, you're right. This government has got form mismanaging the budget. There's at least $13 billion in cost blowouts on major projects, probably more, and we're doing the work on that, but at least $13 billion. Based on that lived experience, you have to assume this government will waste any money they say they will save through this measure, and it won't be put to productive uses. And the fact is, stimulating the economy through wages is a vital road to economic recovery, and the government doesn't seem to know what it's doing. It's also hiding the truth about the budget from the people of New South Wales. They haven't made a clear economic update or statement, and they really should do so.
All right. Now, what about the movement, say, of the Powerhouse Museum? For instance, it's a $1.5 billion movement from the centre of Sydney to Parramatta. Now, I'm not suggesting for a second that we shouldn't be moving major projects like this out into the heart of the western suburbs. And it's a great idea for the economy of Parramatta. But it's a lot of money to be spending in the current climate. And I would have thought perhaps that money should be saved. Scrap this proposal to move the Powerhouse now, reward some of these frontline workers, and then look at perhaps this project further down the track.
Well, that's right, Marcus. I mean, the Labor opposition has called on the government to scrap this project. The fact is, it is not necessary, and the Premier says this is all about making choices. The government has wasted billions of dollars on mismanaging projects. They have chosen to give already very well paid senior public sector managers very large pay increases, including a pay increase of about $86,000 for the police commissioner and other big increases. And these are not the only increases. This government has got form giving pay rises of 5, 10, 15% to people at the top of the management tree, but regular workers working hard to deliver services to the wider community have had their pay capped. And now the Premier is saying the pay should be effectively cut because it should not increase even to match inflation. Now, many people, school cleaners, hospital cleaners, people working in different parts of the public sector are not highly paid. And by cutting their purchasing power, the government is really engaging in an act of economic harm to the economy.
All right.
It's a ridiculous proposition.
All right. Well, it's not a done deal yet, as we know. I mean, I understand that Jodie McKay and others are moving toward some kind of understanding with the Greens and perhaps other members, independents there, to stop this. Can it be done?
We understand the government will use its regulation-making power to bring this policy into effect. That means that regulation can be disallowed by the New South Wales Upper House, and we have been talking to other non-government parties and members in the Upper House to secure support. We're cautiously optimistic.
Okay.
But the proof will be in the pudding. But the fact is, everyone will have to stand up and be counted on this important issue.
Well, it is, absolutely. All right, great to have you on the program. I appreciate your input this morning, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there he is, Adam Searle, the New South Wales Shadow Minister for Industrial Relations. Look, again, it is a little hard to cop for frontline workers. Look, I'm from the western suburbs of Sydney. I've got a stack of mates in the job, either police officers, I've got mates who are nurses, frontline workers. I've also got a friend who's an AMBO. They haven't seen a pay rise for years. And these are the people that have been putting their lives on the line. And I'm literally, really. I mean, we've got our police officers, frontline workers being spat at during a COVID-19 pandemic. Attending to awful incidents in relation to people who have found themselves victims of COVID-19. This is not the time, effectively, to be cutting their wages, surely.